single day I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
Hey there, Cerise here. Welcome to Storytime from Sosua Shores. Okay, here's a quick short story. Now this one has nothing to do with sex or sanky panky or chapiadora. However, it does have to do with making sure that you cross all your T's and you dot all your I's. Alrighty, so there's an older woman. She is your rough, tough type of character. The type of character that doesn't put up with anybody's bull. She is the boss. She does not like it when anyone tries to tell her how to do something when she knows she can do it better. So, let's fast forward a little bit. She's retired. She's a lonely woman, doesn't have a lot of friends. Her children are grown. Her husband long left her long before. She was a single mom for many years. Now she's a grandmother and she is looking to change her life. She didn't want to be a glorified babysitter for the rest of her life, which that's what she became, taking care of her grandchildren all the time. For her 3 children, 7 grandchildren, she decided that with her savings and not paying a mortgage, she can travel the world and see what's out there for her in regards to making a new life. Well, she found the Dominican Republic to be the freest place possible, which it is. Now, she forgot to cross her T's and dot her I's. What she did was she met up with one of her friends in the Dominican Republic who was an expat here, who was already doing business and very much involved in a lot of the organizations going on in the North Coast. And so she too wanted to have a life and not mimic necessarily, but recreate her own life. And she met a gentleman that told her there is a restaurant for rent. Now, he neglected to tell her that the place was not rented for a good 2 years. He forgot to tell her that even during high season, the place would not make money. He neglected to tell her that any income that she would put into that place for the first 2 years would probably not be seen. And not only that, she would have to have the perfect menu in order to be able to run that place, a huge place. Now, what the guy did, oh guys, you may hear some noise in the background. I didn't put this on airplane mode. Let's put this on airplane mode. But my friend is cooking some lunch right now. Here we go. Put that on airplane mode and I'll continue the story here. Now, the guy who told her about this restaurant was a Dominican man, but he was initially born in the United States and his family was Dominican. Sorry, he was born here, but he was initially raised in the United States and his family lived here. And his mom and dad lived in the United States, but he got arrested. He didn't have the proper papers and he ended up getting deported. And so, after a few arrests. So he got here and he didn't have any way of making a living. He was already an adult. The last time he lived here in the Dominican Republic, he was pretty much a baby when his parents took him to America. So, all those years living in America, you become American. Then you're deported. What do you do here? So he ended up doing the exact same thing, but the Dominican government is not having it. The Dominican government was very angry. Well, the authorities were very angry. Let's get more into the story. So the woman decides that, you know what, she's going to have a business. come hell or high water. She is going to have herself a business. That's what she wanted to set out to do, and that's what she did. So she met this guy through one of the bars, and he's in the bar, and they're talking, and they both know her friend who's doing well. And so they start discussing business, and he offers her, hey, do you want to go in on business? And she said, yeah, why not? Why not? What do you have in mind? And she had this money set aside, and of course at the moment she's drunk as a skunk, and they're just chilling and talking and enjoying life. And he tells her about the restaurant, and that's what she's like, okay, well, how much? And he told her the rent is $3,000 a month, and it would be between 3 people, and each of them would pay $1,000. And she was like, okay, no problems. And she asked who the people were, and he said that there was 3 investors, and she would be one, and she could meet up with them and everything. When they had the meeting, there was only 2 investors. But once she looked at that restaurant, because it's a really pretty restaurant, once she looked at the restaurant, she was like, wow, okay, this is great, this is nice. She was willing to pay $1,500. So there was the first trick right there. First, he wheeled her in by saying it's only $1,000 a month. Big restaurant, great, awesome, beautiful. You can, make your menu, blah, blah, blah. And so when she looked at it, she was taken in by the scenery. She was taken in by the possibilities of owning such a big, beautiful restaurant in the Dominican Republic. Now, not owning the ground or the restaurant itself, but renting it pretty much every month, right? But being one of the part owners of the restaurant in regards to operating it. And so she was just in love from the moment she saw it again. She was like, okay, this is great. This is great. She could afford $1,500, no problem. Then he said to her, okay, well, first and last has to be paid, and a security deposit. And she said, all right. So she paid the first, and he told her that the other partner, who she also met, would pay the last month, right? So she pays the first month's rent, the other partner pays the last month's rent, and then the security deposit they would split on. Okay, now follow. She's just flowing with it. She's going with it. She doesn't speak any Spanish, so she's trusting that guy. And she has no reason not to trust him. He seems like he knows what he's doing. Everything's flowing forward. There's not one hitch in the plan. And then the other guy who's supposed to be investing with her, he starts asking questions that make sense. Like, what happens if something like one of the machines need to be replaced, one of the ovens, because they're very expensive machinery. And the guy that, we'll give him a name. Let's give him a name. Let's call him Narco. Okay, so Narco, the dirty deed dude. Right? Narco pretty much told them that if anything happens with the cooking equipment, then the owners would take care of that. It's the owner's responsibility. So that's it. They were ready to go full force, and they did. They're going full force. So she pays for the first month's rent, half of the security deposit. The other guy, he's late. Okay, he pays his first month's rent. He pays the last month's rent, but he's late with the security deposit. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, well, what are we going to do? And Narco says, well, there's only, 2 choices. One, you pay it for him and he pays you back as time moves forward. Or 2, we have to let go of the deal because they have someone else that's going to pay. And if we let go of the deal, then we lose the money. So no matter what, she was losing her money. You get what I'm saying? And this is before she even spoke to a lawyer at all. And this was just like putting in money here, money there, and thinking, okay, let's get all the money pulled in and talk to the owner. And she was being naive and green, thinking she can just pay rent and like not have anything in writing or whatever. So he turns around and Narco, he says to her, okay, great. I think it's a great idea that you just pay the full security deposit. And again, the first month's rent. The other guy already paid the last month's rent. So we're good to move forward then. Now, she didn't question about any receipts or anything. They moved forward. When they moved forward, the other guy says that he wants to drop out of the whole deal. He wants to drop out of the whole deal, and he wants his money back. He wants his first month's rent, his 1,500 back for the. He wants his 3,000 for the rent back that he paid for the last month's rent. If you're following me, so he wants all that money back. She is willing to give it to him because she's thinking at this point now, she can afford the whole rent. It looked like there were some customers that she was trying to bring in, stuff like that. There were people, there's some delivery was going out. She could see a lot of promise in it. She could see a lot of promise in the kitchen. Now, fast forward a little bit. So they all sit down and she agrees to pay out the third guy. She agrees to pay the guy out and keep it moving. 3 days later, someone shows up on her doorstep, on the restaurant doorstep, asking for, proof that they could be running, proof of the lease and everything like that. She shows proof, and the documents were legal, but they weren't for that spot. They were for another restaurant, and the other restaurant was just a shack, and it was located in Puerto Plata. So, she was running an illegal spot. She was running someone's restaurant that was closed down for a long time. After she did the research, she found out that the person who owns it actually lives in Italy, and they have no interest in renting it out at all. They have no interest in selling it either. They will come back when they're ready to. And quite often that happens here. People don't want to rent out their stuff. People just leave it locked up, have someone check on it, and that's it. And quite often that does happen, like I said. But that's what happened there. So they pretty much rented out a location to her that was illegal for them to rent out. At the end of the day, she lost all that money. And the second partner, he didn't pay the last month's rent. He didn't pay anything. They got everything out of her. They got the first month out of her. They got the last month out of her. They got the 3,000, the full 3,000 for the security deposit. Okay, and then she also put in money to fix the place up. Like, all that there to fix it up didn't make sense because she's fixing up someone else's place, but they charged double for the construction of it. You get what I'm saying? So they paid to get like the kitchen cleaned up. It would usually cost like 3,000, let's say. They charged 4,000, and they kept 1,000 for themselves. So this is what they did. They just took everything over the top. Of course, they cannot be found any longer, and it's a whole other story. But she says that there's not anything she can do. She found everything out because the guys that showed up with the clipboard and asked her if she could run the place, it was legal. Those people were like, hey, like, you don't have a license to run this place. You have to go to the fiscal. You have to go to the courts tomorrow and, start the process of what's going on. And that was it. So she didn't think for the life of her that she would get taken that easy for a ride, because she's such a tough, loving, strong woman, raised her kids on her own, is far from being gullible, far from being naive. And she just thought to herself, well, this seems so real. Everything was going over so well, and she assumed lawyers would be spoken to within the next few months, and nothing ever happened. So she didn't get any of her money back. She had to close those gates and close that idea, and the restaurant that was all the way across the town in Puerto Plata was not a place that she wanted to run. And it was also not a place that she thought, she just kind of gave up that dream. So that's what she wanted to share with you guys. She wanted to say, hey, look, it's all right to have a dream here. It's beautiful to want to come here and retire and live in the tropics, but really know who you're working with, because there's some honorable business people here, really good business people that know their connections, and they were born here. They are talented. They know what they're doing. They have skill, and they have other people they can connect you with. So if somebody seems a little fishy, don't deal with them. If you have to second guess yourself, don't deal with them. But also don't be too paranoid. Okay, you'll find some good people here all the time. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you have a story, please contact me at 829-702-7726. You can leave me a voice note via WhatsApp. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for subscribing and for liking this video.
Every single day